fantastical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network's Monday Night Roundtable here for the first episode of the season 48 premiere, to talk about Miles Teller and Kendrick Lamar's episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is John from the Saturday Night Network. So excited to be with you every single Monday night after a new episode this season, where we go through only the sketches that we want to talk about. You know, if you want to go through everything, that's the Saturday Hot Take Show. The Monday show is to dive deep into the really good stuff or the really bad stuff and talk about why we think they're good or bad. And we do that with some amazing panelists every single Monday night. So excited to have our roundtable guests with us. And it's just a crew that I'm so excited to talk to, because I haven't heard any of their opinions on season 48 yet. So very pumped, and also pumped to get everybody's opinions in the chat. So joining us first for the third year in a row for a premiere recap, it is Rich Tackenberg. Rich, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good. I was so excited about the season premiere that I actually watched the last 5 minutes of the NBC Universal Studios Halloween, whatever it was, infomercial with Chris Hardwick. And the fact, just so I wouldn't miss the first second of SNL Live for season 48.
Yeah, is that because of all the new era talk? Is that why you were so pumped up about the season?
Oh, it's all good. It's just back. It's something to live for, John. I just need something to live for out of my life. But that's my issue. Sorry. I'll keep the rest of that to myself.
It's okay. And if you don't believe Rich, he's been podcasting about this show, I believe, since season 37, if I got that correctly. So he's one of the OGs.
Yep.
Yeah, so he has the credentials to talk about Saturday Night Live. Excited to get to hear his thoughts all season long. And somebody who joined us in the summer and is going to be part of our regular coverage all throughout season 48, it is Kirstin Turnbull. Kirstin, how are you?
I'm great. How is everyone? I'm so excited to see you.
Yeah, so excited to have you on with us. I know you are a big part of the SNL Hall of Fame coverage last season, so now welcome to the regular rotation here at the Saturday Night Network. Kirstin, were you excited for the start of the season?
Obviously, this is a bit like a Super Bowl day for me. I mean, you look forward to this. This is in my calendar. We count it down, and, with popcorn. I've watched it twice already, in fact, so I watched it again on Sunday.
Okay, yeah, that's a real pro move. So very excited to get your thoughts, Kirstin. And then the one, the only, there can only be one, Sean Grant, and he is with us for the premiere recap. So excited, coming off his tour, coming on to the Saturday Night Network. Sean, how are you?
Oh man, I'm blessed, man. I'm excited to be back, baby. Can't wait. Yeah.
Yes. So pumped to get all of your thoughts. I know you have some close connections to the new cast of Saturday Night Live, so that's a little bit of tease for later in the show.
You better get ready for some name dropping, baby. It's going down, okay? I know people, all right? And we're going to talk about it.
All right, I cannot wait to do all of that. So here is the way that this podcast works every Monday night. We start off with, we do a few different segments, but we're going to start off every Monday by talking about the decision of Saturday Night Live to book a certain host. It's an angle that we don't usually get to cover on other shows that we do, which is, put yourself in the position of the booker. Is this a decision that you would have made? Do you think it was the right choice? And what is it, what is that host going to be remembered for? So we often like to look at the long view, thinking about not the Longfellow, but the long view, thinking back to this episode. So let's talk about Miles Teller announced for the premiere. I said this once before, and I'm going to say it again. A little bit surprised that Miles Teller was booked as the premiere host. I sort of thought we would get somebody who was a little bit closer to SNL, understanding the way that the world works at the show. But, they went with a new host, someone who's never been at the show before. And there's all these new changes. Was that the right call? So, Rich, if you were in the booking chair, would you have made the choice to go with Miles Teller? And how did you feel about it?
I mean, I think it's a really good call. I think I was surprised as well. I think that obviously the biggest movie of the summer was Top Gun. You're not going to get Tom Cruise. Grandpa Tackenberg is going to book Jon Hamm, who we're going to talk about, because every year Jon Hamm. But I understand Jon Hamm is not the younger demo, and I think Miles Teller, was a really good booking in that he's relevant, he's current. A lot of people watch The Offer on Paramount Plus. You've got obviously the biggest movie of the summer. And there's still a lot of room to grow. I mean, he is somebody who I think we're going to see come back time and time again. I don't know if if they knew that when they were booking him, but I was like, oh yeah, this is bringing really good young energy. I was glad that it was to book like an Owen Wilson for this season would have felt very out of step with all of the messaging about how this is a rebuilding year, this is a new year, this is a new era. And I thought that he was a really good sort of poster person for that without going to like a, someone even younger. But so I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was interesting because like Jon Hamm, though he had a major TV show at the time that he first started hosting SNL, like sort of in the same spot, like young hotness. They book him for the show. He ends up hosting 3 times. Like you have to wonder if Miles Teller will be the new Jon Hamm that people want to see back again. Kirstin, how did you feel when you saw Jon Hamm? So when you saw Miles Teller being booked to host Saturday
I was
Night?
excited when I saw Jon Hamm. Most people probably were. But
Sure.
I think Miles Teller was a strategic choice for a lot of the reasons, Rich, that you talked about. I think when you're choosing a host, it's popularity and availability. And they're looking for someone with some Hollywood credibility, but some chops. They're in it for the long haul. So they have failed in the past when they've booked someone like, I think like a Tom Green or a Paris Hilton or a Nancy Kerrigan or Dane Cook, like someone who's hot at a moment. But then they really get it right when they book like a Tom Hanks or someone who, when he first hosted, that was before Big. So they host someone they have someone as host that, they have a good feeling that they're going to be around for a while, much like Jon Hamm. They get it really right sometimes. I think he also, to Rich's point, had energy and youthful kind of a vibe. I think the footage of him as a kid really, like as a younger person, really showed that this is an ageless show. Like young people watch it. I think it was really smart in saying, hey, we all have watched this at some point. We've all done these little skits. Like here's just another person who's super enthusiastic and pinches himself that he's got the luck to be on the show, which I really connected with. I was kind of impartial to Miles Teller before, and I actually am a fan now after the show. So I think, people his age may tune in for him. He's not going to alienate anyone else. And they put him with a much, kind of younger, more youthful artist as well. I can't wait to talk about next week's show, by the way, because of this, everything I'm saying right now. But I second it. Thumbs up on Miles Teller. I'm now a fan.
Okay, well, stay tuned for the Gleason talk later on in the episode. But for now, we'll stick with the Miles Teller discussion. And I agree. I do think that they maximized what they could have gotten out of him for now. And now that he's done it once, does he have even more in the bag? That'll be a big question that we'll think about. But Sean, how did you feel when, you're on social media, all of a sudden you see Miles Teller is hosting the premiere of Saturday Night Live?
Man, I'll be honest. I had I watched Top Gun and I saw, I enjoyed his performance in that. The story in Top Gun, it was a little. Anyway, we're not talking about Top Gun, but I like the dude now. I'm like Kirstin. I'm a big fan now. I think. I guess I don't want to get into the sketches at this point, but I feel like he made everything likable, even if it had horrible writing, a weird pattern, a game that didn't really connect. He made everything likable. In fact, at the end of the episode, I was trying to pick my favorite live sketch. And I almost couldn't. I was like, damn, they all seem like kind of, middle of the road. But he made it was an enjoyable show. And I know he's good because I watched it with a room full of comedians. It was 5 of us. Comedians hate SNL. Comedians who don't watch SNL have a script. They all say the same thing. It's bad. It's all, and then they weren't watching and they were like, all right, that's good. That was good. And I was like, okay, see, you just don't watch it. Like, you don't get what's happening. So, he's a likable dude. He killed Peyton Manning. Hell yeah. I like him. Big fan now.
Yeah, I think that's a general sentiment. Rich, go ahead.
Sean, would any of those 5 comedians who hate SNL turn down a chance to be on SNL in a second?
Hell no.
Thank you.
They all submitted. We all submit. And we all go that they suck. They don't know what they're doing. And then but I'm like, look, guys, that's not that. First of all, that's not going to get you become a better artist when you can enjoy art, when you can enjoy your friends moving up in the business and enjoy watching. Like, yeah, not everything's perfect about this show, and it's fun what we do on this show in order to talk about that. But from a lens of, we love the show, not from I'm a hater and I want it to fail because I'm not on it. And yeah, I think that the people who are on it have that energy. And we'll talk about that more. But yeah, man, haters, but they're comedians. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I see that. So let's talk about another thing before we start getting into the sketches. I want to talk about this like new era talk. So that's really what the opening of this Monday night show is to talk about the general headlines and stuff like that. So Miles Teller booked for the premiere. There's all this new era talk. That's the general sentiment, right? A cast member's gone. I want to know from each of these panelists, without getting into the endless discussion about what the cast members leaving and new cast members meant, so much hype going into the episode with new era. Do we feel like it felt like a new era in the end or not? So Rich, let me start with you.
Oh, for me, very much so. I mean, I think we'll talk about the cold open. I thought the cold open, very much sort of set the stage for potentially a new era. I think that the idea of doing a new opening credit sequence was not a mistake. It was not, I thought that was very clear, and I think we saw more of the younger, people who are featured players, JAJ, seeing Sarah Sherman, like it wasn't just, it's Ego, it's Heidi, it's Keenan. We really saw sort of a different balance of the show. So I think that for most of America who didn't see any press about Lauren being interviewed or this and that, it felt like a different show than they watched last year, not just because of the people who weren't there, but the way that they sort of kicked off the new season. So I say yes.
Kirstin, how do you feel? New era? Did it feel like that to you?
It did, but I do think the opening credits really helped because it immediately felt different. The new typeface, the new very kind of fast, almost music video style opening montages with all the scenes of the city and kind of the more whimsical way that the cast members were being featured while their names were being presented. Definitely a retro vibe, like blurred edges, like kind of fun. Am I used to the new typeface yet? I don't know.
Do we like it?
I don't know. I didn't immediately, but I'm open. Because I love the previous one was fantastic. The big, bold, uppercase letters. So it's not, listen, why would I hate a typeface? Who cares? But do I like the older one right now? Kind of, sort of. But it did. I think that was, Rich, you said this. I think it was a calculated move to say, like, wipe the slate clean. And I do think they made an effort to include more people. And whether it was because of that meta cold open, that show, those new folks, you kind of wait for them to be almost like an extra in the background. And I think we could check the box, right, on everyone getting their face on camera in that kind of national SNL debut, which is fantastic. And I support that.
Yeah, I've seen so many opinions online over the last few days about this new branding. And I'm sort of just like, whatever. I mean, SNL's changed their branding so many times over the last few decades. Like, what's the big deal? But yeah, Sean, did this feel like new era vibes to you?
It felt like, you guys, I don't know if you guys know basketball. The year the Warriors when Mark Jackson was not quite.
Sorry, Sean. I'm catching you really low. Rich and Kirstin, you're not catching.
Same.
Sean
yeah. I'm losing Sean. Yeah.
Check. Better?
Yeah, I think we got you now. Maybe just speak closer to your computer if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. My bad. This is the Mark Jackson era of the Warriors. You remember when Steph Curry was like a rookie? And when I say new era, I agree with you, but not that they have arrived. I don't think that, but that it's got a high ceiling. It could be really good. I could see the transition and where things can go. I can see where it can go bad too, but it looks good to me. It was fun and like you said, Miles Teller was a perfect person to usher the season in. So talented, was in every live sketch, I believe, and every pre-tape, I believe. So yeah, it felt like a new beginning, and I'm excited, man. Yeah. But the old dogs are still there to help usher stuff along, man. As far as Keenan and Ego and yeah, man, I'm excited. My bad. I'm about to talk too much, man, because I really want to go in on Mike.
Yeah, you will just.
Yeah. I'd also throw in too, John, it was interesting, other than Trump, which was kind of a meta character within a sketch, we didn't see any reoccurring characters from season 47 in season 48. And I don't know if that was calculated or that's just how the writing room broke, but it also helped that we weren't seeing, oh, here's this person back, here's this character back, other than sort of the cold open, which I think is a little meta. So I think that also helped feel fresh, that it was all new characters names, whether it's a Fly, whether it's Bears, whether it's Ronald McDonald. We're seeing new people, which I thought also helped sort of redo a reset for us.
Yeah, well, look, Mikey did do Don Jr., so I'd say like that's probably the other one. But but as far as like characters are concerned, I don't know if I would necessarily attribute that to them doing it strategically, or more just that there's not really many characters from 47 and 46 that they had in the first place, right? Like it's sort of like, you know, we're in the era of the recurring concept, not the era of the recurring character, which you know, I don't know if we're going to get to tonight, but that sort of goes hand in hand with my thoughts about that rooftop bar sketch where like Mikey sort of has a character. And the question is like, what do they do with it now in this new era when they establish the first sketch of an interesting character? Do they then try and build the world of the sketch? I think that's something that we have to watch for as far as like storylines are concerned. And if I start to see that, then I'm really convinced it's a new era of the show, or at least a new strategic decision from the writers. Now, I personally did get new era vibes from it. I was very excited about all this. But I will say, Jost and Shay, though I am a very big fan of their Weekend Update tenure, sort of made me feel like they were coming from the old era of the show, and there was still elements of the old era like peeking in there. I know that Cecily's bound to return. I'm sort of like a little anxious about it, even though I know she's an all-time great, about potentially, you know, like, does she bring the old feel? Because like everything new for me felt really good. So I don't want to lose that. That's my only, you know, two things. But I actually, as a sports fan myself, Sean, completely resonate with what you're talking about, the Mark Jackson Warriors versus the Steve Kerr Warriors. I have to think that, you know, if season 50 is that peak of the Steve Kerr Warriors, I mean, we're talking about, you know, championships coming our way. So I feel there's some good things coming in.
Yes. Okay. Sports. Yes. Yes, with the sports. Yes.
Just a little bit every time. Well, speaking of sports.
That's how I beat Rich. I bring up sports. That's how I beat him.
Yeah. Speaking of sports, let's talk about the Manning cast. That was our cold open that we had, and we got that right away. We get to see Miles Teller and Andrew Dismukes playing Peyton and Eli Manning. So this is the parody of the ESPN2 Manning cast that happens on Monday Night Football. And instead of talking about a football game, obviously they're talking about the premiere of Saturday Night Live. And there's a lot of tropes and characters that you would think of, you know, they would talk about. I won't roll through all of them since I assume by now most of you have seen that, but there was just some fantastic moments in them. I'll talk about a few that I really enjoyed, and then we'll go around the panel and talk about this. But again, totally think that this was made for us, or there was some through line between some coverage that led there. But you know, Rich brought up the Trump thing. Really loved this comment from Miles Teller as Peyton Manning.
Oh, good Trump sketch. Way to mix it up.
Yep, classic. You know, just exactly what you're thinking. I think that probably my favorite moment for me has to be the moment where we have Michael Longfellow, who Sean's very excited to talk about. He is just coming in, and we get this great thing from Peyton.
Oh, and he doesn't close the door behind him. Now he's trying to fix it. The new guy's fully panicking. He's just staring in the camera.
Yeah, that to me was like an all-time great opening moment. Great. But I won't steal them all from you. So, Rich, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on the Manning cast cold open?
You know, so while my wife and I are suffering through the Universal Studios Halloween horror last 5 minutes, I'm like, what do you open with? Because in a way, how do you open with Trump, but also how do you not open with Trump? And I was like, I didn't know what the heck they were going to do. And this was chef's kiss. It was everything I needed it to be. There's so much we can talk about here. From the first minute of Peyton Manning, and I'm like, wait, which cast member is that? And that feeling of, it's the guest host. Oh, this is going to be really interesting. I could talk for 10 minutes just about this. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was so self-referential. Two things I'll say up front. I loved that they asked the seasoned veterans to intentionally be bad so that other people could make fun of them being bad, which I think is gorgeous. I think I think Heidi doing that I want to say was I imagine the willingness to be a team player, to intentionally tank a line so that she can be made fun of, and Bowen did the same thing. I thought that was gorgeous. I love that. There's so many things I loved, and I will save the the cameo too, but here's where I thought it was just so perfect for us. The fact that Eli Manning, Andrew Dice Clay calls it a skit, was the perfect inside baseball dig that was so gorgeous. But to me, I could talk about it forever. Everything about this I loved. It was great.
Yeah, you mentioned the part where Bowen brings up that he has a new catchphrase he's trying to make at work, and I love this.
It is what it is. Am I right? It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, that will be a great sound clip for the rest of the season. So, yeah, so much to talk about from this. Kirstin, let me get your initial thoughts on the cold open.
I also loved it, and you're right, Rich. Like we didn't know what to expect. Which way are they going to take it? And I'm sure all the comics that you were sitting with, Sean, would have said, "Oh, they're probably going to do a Trump thing. They're probably going to do this. They're probably going to do that." And they turned it right back around on us and said all of those things. And they presented it in such a way that turned it into this great opener. And I saw Miles Teller, and I almost didn't recognize him at first with the wig, and also thought it was something special that he was in that. And then he continued to be in almost every single element of the show outside of what the AMC and the music, which is pretty formidable. It says a lot about, I think, him meshing with this new group. And yeah, cold open was a slam dunk for me to continue the basketball references. I really enjoyed it. And I also love Bowen tanking a line. You know you're good when people know that you're tanking a line. Like, there was no way around it. He's so great at delivery that it was so fun to see him just blow it on purpose.
Sean, let me get your thoughts on the cold open.
Loved it, man. Yeah, I loved it. It was, the way it disarmed the comedians I was sitting with, because the fact, at first they're looking like, yeah, it sucks. And they let it run. And then when they start making fun of it, you take the power away from the haters, and I love that they can make fun of themselves. Even the host, who was killing it, had John Hamm come in there and make fun of him. So nobody was taking themselves seriously. And I feel like that was so perfect to get the nerves out for, can you imagine all these new people and even JAJ's, this is only his sophomore year. And he's a, big part of the show, big star. So, yeah, man, I'm sure that got all the cobwebs out, and it was perfect to get everybody juiced up for a great show.
Look, I was thinking about this a lot the last couple of days because I was just so freaking excited about it. And really, I don't want to be hyperbolic in my love for this, but this is exactly what Saturday Night Live should be. Sorry if anybody disagrees, but I'm going to just, die on this hill. When I think about the beginnings of the show, I go back to something. Yeah, I think even Lorne Michaels brought this up on Fly on the Wall when he was a guest this past week. He talked about John Belushi playing a bee. And at the beginning, in the first episode, there was this bee sketch. And the one, comment that they got from NBC back on their opinions of the show, and I'm sure there was more, but the one that really stood out was, stop that bee thing. Let's get the cast to not do the bees. So in the next sketch, or the next episode, they say, Belushi comes out, or maybe it was even 2 episodes later, he comes out and he starts monologuing as the bee. And it's, this rebellion that starts between the network, and there's all this meta aspect to when you're watching the show, there's this disparity, right? Where you're supposed to buy into the sketches and believe that the cast members are actually playing the roles in the sketches. But at the same time, that they're actually cast members. So there's this disparity. And I think that's the level of who likes SNL and not, is your ability to buy into those sketches. So when you're watching something like this, where not only is the sketch supposed to be about the characters they're playing, but at the same time, they're also playing themselves, it's beautiful to watch, because that is everything that Saturday Night Live has been for 48 years. And I felt like they got away from that at a certain point. And to have that come here at the start of the quote unquote new era, to me, was a genius production decision. Rich, do you agree with me?
I totally agree. I mean, it's about the personalities and, as they embody the characters. And I definitely agree. I thought it really captured that fun. And similarly, when they're, when Andrew Dice Clay as Eli Manning is making fun of SNL, we know he loves SNL because he's part of SNL. Like the fact that they can make fun of themselves, the joke that they start writing the show, they don't finish writing the show to 5 a.m. and then Peyton says, when did they start writing 4:30? Like that's such an inside baseball joke that I'm sure they love taking those shots at themselves. There was so much fun built into this. It was really great.
And Rich, I know you wanted to talk about the Jon Hamm cameo, so anything else on there?
Oh my God. I've been waiting for Hamm to return. This was just like the coronation. So to see him, obviously his connection to Miles Teller from Top Gun, them playing off each other. But I was just like, sometimes you just like, I wish this person would come back. And then they come back and you're like, you know what? They were okay, but they weren't great. Hamm was just at a 10 from the beginning. He was so strong. So that lovely interplay where he's like, well, you know what? Sometimes they got to bring in a big celebrity for a cameo because, the guest host isn't strong enough. And then Miles Teller, counters with, yeah, but they rarely put the guest host in the cold open. So that must mean something special. Like so beautiful. That played well. And I loved and it probably was logistics, but I'm going to attribute it to their love of Jon Hamm, that instead of all running to the White House set or to the guest, they all ran to the set where Jon Hamm was and circled around him. That just gave me such warm and fuzzies to start it. I loved it.
And I have to feel like in another life, like in an alternate dimension, Jon Hamm is Steve Martin to Saturday Night Live, because just the way he was sitting there with confidence and poise, to me, like if he was, born a little bit earlier and was a host in the 70s, like I think Jon Hamm hosts the show like 10 to 15 times. So
100%.
Yeah, I just think it's circumstantial, sort of like how he ends up as a 3-time host, like probably one of the best, only 3-time hosts in the history of the show. Kirstin, anything else from the cold open that you want to touch on?
No, again, I'm just really impressed that everyone got a chance. We often talk about the stats of how newcomers show up like a blip on the radar. We hardly ever see them. And they all got their like, hey, mom, hey, dad moment, as small as it was. And it felt really inclusive. And it felt like a more generous kind of spirit in putting on a show, which hopefully bodes for how they're bringing this new era to life.
Yes, that is true. We did get, I believe, Marcelo and MOLY doing the gritty, and of course, Michael Longfellow doing that lead in, and we had Devin Walker playing the corn kid, Tariq. So that was really great. Sean, anything else in this cold open that you want to touch on?
No, same, man. Just it felt like everybody's on the same page and everybody's supportive, and it should lead into an amazing season.
Okay. All right. Well, let's lead into that season and talk about the sketches that we want to talk about on this Monday night show. And Rich, let's talk about the first sketch that you want to bring up this season.
Weird, as you know, for years I railed against the game shows. I was so sick of the absolute overdone, boring game show parodies. And I feel like we're in a new era where, for the most part, a game show is social commentary on something. And I love that, with the lightest of light touches. So we get our game show parody, Send Something Normal, where, the challenge of the game show is if a man can send a normal reply to a Twitter DM, they will win $100 million. And I love this setup. What I thought was really interesting, I want to hear everybody else's opinion, is this is a sketch where when Miles Teller's host, when he says that, we all know the rest of the sketch. They're not going to, we know there's going to be a series of people who are going to not win $100 million because they can't help themselves. So it's all an execution now. There's no surprises left. It's all execution. And while I don't know that the impressions themselves were necessarily all golden, I thought this was such a fun hitting home. Nope, this guy's going to be a dog. Nope, this guy can't help himself. Nope, this guy, even getting to the end. I love that. And I even love the idea that we have Bowen at the end. Just how cool we've come to a point in our culture and the writing that being an openly gay man is the straight man of a sketch. There's something so wonderful about that. And then, of course, we get the somewhat predictable twist. But I thought there was a lot to like in this sketch.
You're so right about that. That's a great point on Bowen, who had a fantastic night, by the way, just totally deserving of #1 overall pick, released for this night. Kirstin, how did you feel about the DM game show Send Something Normal?
Very funny. It was a great way to inject some very topical news, in that some notable, not quite gentlemen have gotten themselves in a wee bit of trouble. I don't know that Neil deGrasse Tyson, wasn't he the wild card? Or does he have a scandal that I don't know about? I thought he was the only unpredictable part. Is we got Adam Levine, sure. We got Armie Hammer, weird, sure. Bowen, that was kind of the fun twist. But does Neil deGrasse Tyson have one? He was hilarious. It was perhaps just a way to get another viewing of that character. My favorite when he's calculating and you can see his little brain going. Such a fun one. So I enjoyed it. It was great. Again, Miles Teller was coming out real strong. He had so much confidence the entire time that he seemed like he had done the show before. So it held together for me.
Okay. The chat says Neil had some type of scandal, but
it was a weird choice. Yeah. I know, because there was a potential scandal that I think was basically disproven as was not true. So it was a little weird going in because I'm not the big social media. I'm like, wait, I thought that wasn't actually true. And then they didn't say that it was. They said, oh, you might be or something. It was just it almost felt like they wrote it thinking he had, and then someone fact checked and went, oh no, that wasn't. But let's keep it in anyway because he's just so damn funny, Keenan, that we don't want to take it out.
Well, that could be the reason there is that he's in there. Do we know? Do we not know? And I will be Googling that as soon as we're done.
Sean, how do you feel about this game show?
Yeah, you know what? I'm ashamed of you, Rich. I'm ashamed of you, man, because you turned me last season. You made me look at game shows as flat. And like you said, there was all they had to do was escalate. And I don't know that it did that very well. It was fine. You know, everybody was likable in it, but it's predictable because the game is built it's a game show. So the pattern is, very predictable. And I was on the Rich train, and here he goes, turning, what do you call it? Jumping the fence. I don't know if that's a thing. Yeah, you turned on me, Rich.
Sean, when you zig, I zag. That's the thing. It's like the 1932 torpedo Pistons from the game. Remember the era? I don't know. It's sports reference to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But that's what usually game shows seem lazy. But, it's a way to get everybody into it. I was surprised that he hosted it, right? Because usually a cast member has to be that pivot point, the timing of knowing how to, Keenan usually is really good in that role where he can make sure everybody gets there. He's a point guard, if we're going to keep basketball stuff, to move the sketch along and create that escalation and execution, as you said. But, yeah, it was fine. Honestly, the comedians were still talking at that point in the show, and I allowed it because I had Rich's voice in my head going, oh, who cares? It's a game show, predictable, basic, just a safe way to start the show. But all the characters were lovable. Everybody did a great job with what they had, and I thought Keenan was especially lovable as usual.
Yeah, Sean was like,
"Holy moly!"
when he saw that game show again. So let me give my 2 cents, and then I'll get Rich's comeback on this. So I think in concept, this was a really strong concept for a game show sketch. Did it need to be a game show? Not sure. I do think SNL, I'm thinking about this a lot. I think SNL has a little bit of a weird problem where they don't know how to take non-political impressions and put them in a sketch that isn't a game show. Right. I can't think of any of them. So for me, at least in the last few years,
it's only auditions. It's screen tests. That's the only other place they can do it.
But
it's why would these people be together? You're right. It's what would be the reason these celebrities would be together. Yeah.
Exactly. And game shows, at least new ones, don't really exist that much. I guess there's ABC summer game shows and stuff, but it's not really a fresh thing. So for me, I do think there needs to be a little bit more creativity with how you put these characters or these impressions together. So, that's one thing I think about. Also have to say, Mikey, who I think was getting a bad rap on Saturday night, where people were do we need to see so much Mikey? I'd say this is the one part where I'm this was not an Adam Levine impression. So I don't really know what this was, but does this sound like Adam Levine to anybody?
Your body is making my penis smile.
Maybe in words, but not in vocal tone or anything. So, feel like they could have found someone better to do that. But otherwise, I think there was a lot of good there. Rich, do you want to comment on any of our thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you about the impression, and I think that Mikey is so strong. But I think that what you saw with Keenan, when you, especially you, that I think JAJ is really good at finding the heart of an impression where you absolutely know it's an impression. Keenan, this Neil deGrasse Tyson is no closer to the real Neil deGrasse than that Adam Levine is. What he does is the Will Ferrell camp, which is I'm just going to clearly invent a character where you don't have to lean and go, wait, are you? It's just like, and I think that maybe Mikey could take a page from that of just invent a new character for Adam Levine so we know you're not trying to do it. But who knows? I was also going to say I have a completely unfounded theory as to why Miles Teller was the host. This is based on nothing except me and Genevieve on the couch, which is I wonder if he was very happy to do a very good impression of Peyton Manning, for which he is not mocking Peyton Manning. It was Peyton Manning mocking other people. I wonder if they said, hey, Miles Teller, do you want to do an impression of a celebrity who's kind of a predator and make fun of their predatory nature towards women? He was like, you know what? I could be the host. I think that's a nice, safer place for me to be. I have to work with these people. I'm basing that on nothing other than what I would do if I were him.
Yeah. Can I ask one more thing of you, Rich, which is like, why do you think we give Keenan the liberty to take an impression and make it his own character, but we don't do the same with somebody like Mikey Day? Because I think I'm at fault for that as well.
Because here's the thing, and I don't know. We have to turn to Sean. He's the comedian. As a viewer, not knowing, I feel like there's a way that people like Keenan are in some way communicating. I'm not even trying. That Mikey does not seem to be effectively communicating to me, the audience member. That I'm not even. So I thought Mikey was trying, and I didn't think Keenan was. I don't know what that is performance-wise, but Sean, help me out here.
Yeah, Sean, go ahead.
I got you, Rich. I know exactly what it is. Okay, there's impressionists like, I don't want this to come across as a diss to Mikey Day because I think he's an amazing talent. I've seen him at the Groundlings before he was
unbelievable.
On SNL.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. But there are some people, funny beats talent. Okay, let me prove it. Dave Chappelle is a horrible impressionist. That's Rick James. It's terrible Rick James, right? He did a Nelson Mandela from hell. That was a terrible Nelson Mandela. His funny is like that. His funny is off the charts. So you're not looking for accuracy out of his impressions. He's just funny. Keenan just has that. He's just hilarious. He's funny. Now, people who aren't as funny, you want accuracy, right? Not just Mikey, Jay Farrell, right? He's funny. I don't want this to come across like I'm saying these people, but they're not. Just some people just don't have it like that, where they're just so funny in so many ways. It's just coming out of their orifices that they can get away with trash impressions and just make you laugh. But when you're not quite, and you're clearly going for accuracy, it's judged on a different scale. And you just got to up your funny, baby.
Do you think that tenure plays a role too? Because Keenan is just at that point, like,
Mikey
he knows it inside. Mikey's been there a while, but Keenan, like, still double. Like, he's got this comfort that it's never going away. I don't think he'd ever be fired, where most other cast members might not get renewed for a season. I think Keenan is on the red carpet.
That's not even, he's been doing it since he's 12, like on all that. That's what the comedians were saying, like on the couch, like, yeah, but he's been doing it since he's 12 years old or something, 11, at a high level, movies, everything. So it's like, this is just an open mic for him. This is just him going around the corner and,
it's easy.
It's easy. It's a walk in the park. It's not making his career is so full of that. There's no, it's not predicated on him doing well on SNL. He's already had movies. He's already done other sketch shows. He's going to have a TV show probably for the rest of his life, host whatever he wants, maybe own a network. So he's cool, man. But he still puts the effort forward. That's amazing. He still comes, straps up his boots, puts his gloves on and goes to work, puts the piece in the sketch. That's what I'm talking about. Trying
Well,
to end
and
on a
maybe
high note.
Kristen is right in that there is a tenure to. We know Keenan's not going to try. Keenan stopped trying in impressions before Mikey Day was hired to be a cast member on this show. That doesn't mean he's not. He's trying very hard at making an impression funny, but not being accurate. Where Mikey as Trump, he is trying. So maybe there is a moment where you're Will Ferrell and you're suddenly playing Saddam Hussein or George Bush Jr., where we realize, oh, he's stopped even trying. Maybe it's just Mikey isn't there yet. I don't know.
I also have to wonder if it's a question of like, do we as an audience like know who Mikey Day is beyond like the characters that we see him on screen? Like, I think Keenan is like fully formed and like we know his personality and stuff like that. And I sort of feel that like, if Mikey were to have left over the summer, like a lot of his counterparts, like we would have walked away saying like, of course, Mikey and Streeter like writing duo, but like really he's mostly sort of known for like being the guy that's questioning everything around him. So when he's like not that, it's almost like a little bit weird. So like we're not used to seeing that side of him in a sense. Like it's almost like he's out of character while he's in character. And that's sort of like a weird like disparity for me where I think the audience doesn't fully connect with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else got anything on the game show sketch? All right, Kirstin, let's head over to you for the sketch that you want to talk about.
Oh, and by the way, I thought of how they used to do celebrity compilations. Was they always used to do telethons, but no one does telethons anymore.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be a throwback.
So my favorite, hands down, was the pre-tape BeReal. I love when SNL has a commenting on something, they are relatable, and they're kind of reflecting this moment. And that if you watch this back 10, 15 years from now, probably even 5 years, you think, what were people doing with social media? What is this trend, this BeReal thing? And it would be just absurd then as it is now, to me at least. So I think it was really clever. When it started, I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but that mullet came in the door and the writing was amazing. It was super snappy. Obviously, PDD, Please Don't Destroy, had a role in that. And you can tell their fingerprints were all over it. I also love, I've discovered, Celeste Yim. Fantastic writer, Korean-Canadian. Woohoo!
Go Canada.
Who knew? And when I reviewed the writing of the sketches throughout the night, I noticed that Celeste Yim popped up wherever I was happiest. So my eye is on Bowen Yang, Celeste Yim, and Please Don't Destroy's writers. And this was their moment. The scenarios in this and the writing, the aligned with the mission of the platform. There's always a dumb robber. Anytime we see a scenario where there's a holdup or a bank robbery, there's always a dumb one who's going to mess it up. So this was just a really fun, clever way for that to happen. And everyone played their parts perfectly. I loved it. And all I want to do is hear you all tell me how much you loved it right now.
Well, I mean, it's
the only honest social media.
Yeah, that's what I learned. So I would love to get, well, actually, I definitely want to hear from the panel if they knew about BeReal before. So Kirstin, I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you know what this app was prior to the pre-tape?
I knew of it. I don't know anyone that uses it. And I have never looked at it myself, but I had an inkling of what it was. But I didn't know enough to know the double camera thing. So a little bit on my radar, but meh.
Yeah. For me, I'll say I had some friends text me over the summer and were like, hey, we should all download the app and like it'll go off at like 2 p.m. and then we'll all take a photo of where we are. And I downloaded it and like not everybody did. And then it sort of just like died out. Like I feel like I'm not the target demo of this. But Sean, do you know what this was? And then how did you feel about the pre-tape?
You know what? I actually found out about what it was from King Batch, the guy I tour with. He's really big on Instagram and he was big on Vine. He told me about it, and I was really confused when he told me. Like, I was like, "What are the stats? How do you know how many followers?" He was like, "There is no followers," but he loves it. Well, probably because the people that he does it with are beautiful Instagram women or something. But it sounded really stupid to me. So I guess when he gets the notification and you have to take a picture, it's probably some fine women that he knows because he's famous and rich. But it never appealed to me. But it was cool. It was enough. I had enough information to get the sketch, but I think you could have got the sketch without it. I thought that the game was clear, explained well, and then it escalated supremely. I think what I love about SNL pre-tapes is it really shows like the hating, the comedians I was sitting with, or anybody that's a big judge of the show, that the show would be really different if it was all pre-tape. If it was like Mad TV, if it was like Key and Peele, if it was like really any other sketch show where you could do pre-tapes and you could go bop, 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 bop with the editing and turning and, and use the camera angles to your advantage and all that, and the cinematic elements to your advantage, then, it would still be in its own ballpark. But because of the live aspect of SNL, it's just, there's nothing you can really compare it to. But the pre-tape was perfect. They're not all perfect, but that one was boom, 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 escalated, and we were out of there with a high button. Loved it. Come on, Rich. I saw your face like you was about to say something negative. You better not, Rich. Rich, I'm going to mute myself. Rich, come on now.
No, I liked it a lot. I'm sorry, that was a dumb fake out. What I was going to say is I'm ashamed to admit when John said, do you know BeReal? I know I can't lower Sean's opinion of me any lower, but Kristen, I'm about to lower your opinion of me. I knew it from all of the tech journalists and tech podcasts that I listen to religiously. They all were talking about it, especially when people were getting in trouble because they were doing selfies and the back camera was shooting their computer monitor and giving away company secrets in their BeReal account. So I've never used it, but I knew all about it. So and this, again, I'm going to say exactly what I said about the last sketch, which is clearly the writing was super transparent in anyone who's ever written, an amateur sketch knows, okay, BeReal, you have to use it no matter what you're doing. What's the most heightened version that could be? What if you were in a bank robbery? Got it. Okay. From the moment they set this up, we know exactly what this sketch is from the first line until they're both in jail for having used BeReal as, we know where this is going. So the execution has to be A+ along the way. Good news for the sketch, the execution was A+ all along the way. Every single person who gets added to the conversation continues to heighten, and they did such a good job at explaining it, and that idea of, Miles Teller being the guy who doesn't know what BeReal is, so we're going to explain it while we're using it, was such a nice trope, and it was quick. It was not a super long sketch. So once we sort of went, oh, okay, I get this now. The next beat is he's on board, he takes the picture, and he's in jail, and we're out. So I loved the tightness of this. I thought this was really fun.
I loved this as well. And I think I sort of want to take my commentary from the angle of the choice of the writers and the producers to cast Miles Teller as the person who is discovering BeReal, because I think that they could have easily made the choice to put any other cast member in this role, but the fact that they chose the host to do it was more confirmation to me in their confidence in him and having this important, like, he really made this work, and it actually had to be believable that he didn't understand what the app was. And he's playing off the typical tropes of some of the other cast members, where you have Bowen, who's sort of like really excited to explain what is happening with the app, where he's just like,
It's time to be real.
just like the passion that he's talking when he says it. And then you have, of course, like your classic Mikey Day, and this is the typical Mikey Day role.
Do you guys all work for BeReal or something?
Yeah,
oh,
and
so great.
Yeah, which is great. So basically, what you have in this like world that they built for this pre-tape is the host playing the role of the person who is coming in, not knowing anything about the app, and then you have all your cast members in there, like, playing to their strengths, like playing their best spots. And it really takes a very good SNL host to then knock this out of the park. So for me, a lot of people go back to that cold open and they say, okay, Miles Teller playing Peyton Manning, that's the strength, right? Like, that's where he was so good. He comes out with this impression. He's leading off the season. Like, that's a big deal. No, it was the BeReal pre-tape to me that really emphasized how good of a host Miles Teller was, because without him in this, there's a lot of hosts that could have probably made this worse. I'll also say the moments where, they just sort of let loose and it's finally time to be real, and you get basically like Heidi taking pictures of her boobs. You get like Bowen on the floor with his like legs up and stuff like that. I mean, like, that to me was great. And it was such a, like, even like the music behind it, like the score of the pre-tape and stuff, like when they're finally like letting loose, like, there's just like a lot of things that really, really worked here. Kirstin, let me head back to you for like the final button on this.
I think we're all established that Miles Teller is a great actor.
Yeah.
Again, I was impartial before, but he delivered consistently in all of the sketches, and this one was no exception. I really, really enjoyed it, and this is the one that I would share. I will share this on social, and I will watch it multiple times, which in my book is a sign of a great sketch and great writing.
Yeah, definitely. And I did want to know, I mean, I asked the panel about if you knew what BeReal was before or not, and it seems like general consensus was people really like this. I was curious how, close our audience was to knowing this app or not, and we did ask that question, which we do every single Monday. We are going to put up polls on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram. You can always answer those, and that will help aid the discussion as we go through everything during the week, both on the Roundtable and even on the Wednesday by the Number show. We'll talk about some of those polls as well. So we did ask the audience. We said, did you know what BeReal was before the sketch aired? And 75%, 3/4 of the audience, said yes, that they did. So interesting, 25% said no. Now, of course, you have to take into account that this is social media. So on social media, people are talking about a social media app. There are some caveats here, but I thought it was interesting to at least see that a lot more people knew about this app than I thought that they did, and how they felt about it once they knew. So they were still able to buy into the fact that Miles Teller didn't know about it, even though the majority of the audience seemed to know what the app was. So interesting to note.
Could I throw one more thing in there, John, before we move on?
Sure.
Into what you were just saying, I've been saying for a while, SNL has two huge challenges in this modern era. One is that they're never the first to the party for social commentary. The second is SNL made their bones making fun of pop culture, and in 2022, there is no one pop culture anymore. There's hundreds of sub pop cultures, and so it's very rare that that someone's going to know what BeReal is and know what Adam Levine got in trouble for, and and they have to. And I think this was a great sketch at addressing, even if you don't know what the pop culture issue is that is the start of the comedy, we're going to actually explain it to you while making fun of the thing we're explaining it to you. That's a great template moving forward in an era where we're not all in the same tent like we were 20, 30 years ago.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, Sean, over to you for the moment of the night that you want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. It's the takeover. It's Michael Longfellow at the Weekend Update desk, baby. Hold on. First of all, I know Michael Longfellow from stand-up comedy for years. Hardworking guy, great writer, amazing guy. We both did our Don't Tell sets the same night, and after that, blew up, man. I just want to show you something real cool. Right after the show, I posted an SNL Network a story congratulating Michael Longfellow on being the first cast member since Pete Davidson to appear on the Weekend Update desk in their first episode. I made that part of my story. Say congrats, Mike. I want you to note the time. Hold on. Dang, it's making it fuzzy. Wait.
Okay.
You're hating on me. Hold on. Wait.
Read it for us. Yeah.
No, I got to prove it. Hold on.
Okay.
This is
for the audio
Michael
listeners,
Longfellow.
Sean is trying to put his phone up to the camera.
Dang it. All right. This is Michael Longfellow at 10:06 p.m. my time, which must be right after the show. So that's 11, 12, 106. So the show ends at 12:30. He's still on set. Here he is going, thanks, dude. That's my boy. Okay? He wrote, thanks, dude, to me. What I imagine is Lorne Michaels is right in his face going, man, great show, Mike. He goes, hold up. Somebody very important just posted a story about me, Lorne. Shut up while I respond to him. And he wrote, thanks, dude, with two white hands thanking me. Those are his white hands right there. All right? And I loved it. I put a little bam, a little love. I'm gonna put the screenshot. I'm sending it to you, John, because it looks fuzzy.
Take a screenshot, send it to me. I'll put it up on screen for everybody. How about that?
Damn right. You better.
I love that Sean is super close with the guy who runs Michael Longfellow's Twitter account. That is so impressive. I love it.
Oh, Rich, you hate on me, baby. I know that's Mike's dude. I know how.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I love it. I love it.
But what's so cool, man, is like, honestly, when he first got cast, I was like, he's going to replace Jost on the Weekend Update desk. I think Jost wants to go. I think he's done. Him and Shay felt like going, but they didn't want to leave the show that way. And to see him do this bit about conservative parents on SNL, they probably decided, like, let's take a bit of yours that we think will bomb. And if anybody knows anything about the Weekend Update desk, you can feel it when somebody's on there bombing, right? You know, it's like a set. It's like doing a stand-up set, and we've heard it. We've heard people yelling their lines into the void and nothing back from that audience. And my boy was up there flowing, okay? I could have literally took his head, and Jost looked at peace. He looked like the old West gunslinger that just handed over the belt. You know, it was like the Duke handing over to Clint Eastwood or something like that, man. Because you could tell it was a second when he had to reset the vocal coordination of Jost's voice to his rhythm. A little more, buddy of mine who was watching the show, Chris Lewis, said he was a little like Norm Macdonald, like a little more heavy with his vocal cadence. But as soon as he caught his rhythm, baby, got that first big laugh, bam, 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 hitting them. Just raw, no character, no nuts and bolts, no damn costume on, just jokes. Boom.
Love it. Love to see it. Yeah, I love to see it. We're gonna talk. Thank you, Sean. I love this. Definitely send me that screenshot. I'll put it up on screen during the podcast if you can. So, right, yeah, send it to me on WhatsApp. So basically, I would like to just play a little bit of Longfellow's set that he did. So for anybody who's just tuning in to the podcast and didn't see the show yet, which I don't know, maybe you're one of those people, but I'm gonna play this just as a reminder of his amazing moments on Weekend Update.
You shouldn't cut anti-vax people out of your life. They could be dead tomorrow. Spend time with them. Call them. Get in the will.
So many things about this just vocally that, I have to bring up, and I can't wait to get Rich and Kirstin's thoughts on this, but the pauses between the sentences was art. It was just pure, like, knowing the audience, and like Sean, as somebody who knows him, like, and does stand up all over, like, this is to me is like it's like watching, like, somebody like perform, like, just to the nth degree, like, just amazing to be able to use that audience on your first episode. And then just the, like, it's like, he's in a dangerous spot where he's walking around the vocal tone of being monotone almost, because he's so straight with the way he's talking. But he just doesn't get there, where he, like, comes out the other side of being so smart with the way he comes out of the monotoneness and emphasizes certain words. It's really brilliant, let alone the subject matter. So, Rich, let me get your thoughts on Michael Longfellow's debut on Weekend Update.
So I'm going to respectfully disagree with both of you in a very different way, which is I thought it was really, really strong, and I'm telling you he's going to get even better. And here's why. And I again, Sean is the professional, but I'm going to say this as a guy who's been watching SNL for longer than you guys have been alive. There is something about a stand-up comic. The first time you were at SNL, it's not, I know some people on social media were saying nerves. I don't think he was nervous. It is a different beast where you are artificially talking to someone else and you're not standing, and there's more logistics than just if he's done that chunk 100,000 times in front of it, to a microphone, to an audience with no one else. There's an adjustment period that I think it's like, oh, okay, now I got to actually wait I can't say the next line until Colin says this, and then I got to turn, and now I'm going to do the next 6 lines straight to camera without. And he did that really nicely, but wait till he does it again, because he's done it before. I think he's going to be really, really stronger, and in a great way. I think I hadn't thought about him taking over for Jost, but I get those vibes. I think that's a really great idea. I think he could be in a really nice place. And I would say previously to this, we have seen a lot of stand-up comedy features on Weekend Update be about energy and loud. I think that Leslie Jones really set a bar for you just come out at 11 and you just crush it. And boy, I love those pieces. I love this kind of real reset to, we could play this really subtle and sophisticated and play that, and I think that brings a great energy to the Weekend Update desk.
So what did you feel like was missing though?
I think that I just think I think there's a comfort when you're sort of transitioning a little bit from, this is a joke that I've told to the audience, but now I'm sort of incorporating a little bit of banter, and then there's not banter. And I think some of the transitions were B pluses, and I think that they're going to be A's. I think that, and also it's not only it's him learning, it's also Colin learning how to, okay, Michael's a new person. Everyone's got a different energy. I knew how to do it with Pete. By the end, him and Pete it was such a perfect flow. You didn't kind of know where the dialogue ended and the monologue began, and vice versa. I bet they will get there very, very quickly, to the point where it's just a completely seamless flow.
All right, let's bring in Kirstin's thoughts on Michael Longfellow on Weekend Update.
Yeah, I think, Rich, those are great observations. And I also had not considered him as a successor for the Update desk. What's interesting is, at first I thought, oh, look, they're trying to find a new Pete Davidson. But Pete did a lot of observing himself, which always kept the audience very young. Like, a lot of people older people couldn't relate to the things he talked about. But what Michael did is he very much delivered relatable content, talking about conservative parents. And I had written down the get in the will, and rich people always say 1.5 times. Like, there was some really great writing there. And I'll echo that, he was cashing every word and every beat in between and every punctuation. Like, each one of them was, you can tell, practiced. He has put in time. Sean, I'm sure that's what you would second, is that he's put in his time. He's learned delivery really well, and he has practiced in front of probably the toughest crowds. And I totally get, Rich, that the blocking can be different if you're used to just being by yourself with a microphone, that all of a sudden blocking can confuse or just, change the dynamic enough that it maybe would throw something off a little bit, especially for someone who's managing those details so well. But I thought he did a really great job, and I am impressed. Like, there's obviously, Sean can attest to this, but more to him if he got offered that spot, and not even as a character, but just, him, Michael Longfellow, you bring your stuff and what you do to this premier platform, and there you go. And he did it. Yeah, because that could have been interesting if he hadn't, and it would have been disappointing, but he did it.
Yeah,
John?
I'm gonna say, just so that you guys can kind of like understand how, when you change the positioning of a comedian, right? Somebody that's used to standing up, holding a mic, and delivering their jokes that way. Even the awkwardness of the show. What's that show with where you're sitting down with the guy, the black guy, Comics Unleashed? That's weird to have somebody make a joke like that. My third year in comedy, they had me audition at Florida State to host this show, like a step show. And it was so weird for me to do it in a room with these people just judging my act, me having to tell them my jokes. I needed to hold somebody's hairbrush so that I had a mic in my hand, because it's that weird. So to go from, he's probably told that joke standing up with a regular. If you see a comedian with a headset, the Birbiglias who use that headset, that's a completely different energy than somebody that holds the mic, that might use the stand, that might whatever, So just the fact that his first time there, he sat down flat-footed with Colin Jones and went bang, bang, bang. Didn't have him carry no weight. All the punches on him. Boom, 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 boom. And they kept growing. With that material, my mom and dad are conservatives. We talking about SNL, bro. What are you talking about? Nobody's going to like you. Like, I would say, if it was a stand-up set, I would say don't even start with that. Start with something else. Make them like you and trust you. Don't start with my dad's a Republican. It was the first thing you ever said on freaking SNL, and they still like you. And he's got this smile in between jokes. Like, if you ever watch a comedian in a theater, there's a pause, right? Like in comedy clubs, it's more bang, 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 because it's like little fires going on. But there's a big roar of laughter that comes in like a setting or a theater, because everybody's facing you. Nobody's slamming chicken wings, whatever. So when he does that, and he has that little Tosh, I don't know if you ever seen Tosh in between jokes, like with this little like grin that he does, or you know what I mean, like that little like devious. He has it. He has that thing, and he kept doing it in between his jokes and holding it, and then waiting for the next line, holding it, get the laugh, do his little like charming. Oh my god! And like Rich said, it's gonna get even better. So when he on that update desk, baby, we talking about legend. Instant legend. Colin who?
Sean, I hate to say this, but the idea of a liberal person with Republican parents is something that I relate to intimately.
Oh, all right, yeah.
I know. I thought this is a great segment, and you could do how do you talk to your Republican parents? He could do 6 update spots this year, and I would love every one of them.
Nice.
Okay. All right, well, let's leave it there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more we're going to talk about with Michael Longfellow.
You got my screenshot, John? Did you get the screenshot?
Oh, yeah. No, actually, yes. No, you're right. I don't.
Got it?
I almost forgot. The moment of the night here where I'm going to bring up Sean Grant's DMs. Speaking of DM game show, here is the DM from Michael Longfellow back to Sean Grant, just as proof
Longfellow _ Michael. That's him. Okay.
Yeah. So this is
Thanks,
just proof.
dude.
This is proof that our panelists are actually credible, that they don't just make stuff up on the show. So, thank you, Sean, for sharing that. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't write this to him.
Holy moly!
Or this one.
Your body is making my penis smile.
That would have been different. Yeah. Okay. The sketch that I want to talk about is the AMC Theaters pre-tape. And this was a pre-tape that is a parody of an existing commercial where Chloe Fineman plays Nicole Kidman and walks around and talks about how great movies are and why going to the theater is super important. Super interesting. This commercial, I think, got a lot of play, especially in this time where post-COVID people are deciding whether they actually want to go back to movie theaters or not. And the Nicole Kidman aspect. But basically, they take this existing commercial and they turn it up to 11, and everyone is there as soldiers following on, except for Kenan Thompson in the pure Kenan role of being confused and not understanding and giving a look of complete panic when he sees Chloe Fineman as Nicole Kidman next to him. And there's, to me, everything worked here, but the best part of it all was how short it was. Going even to the point where Punky Johnson comes in at the end as the button, and she looks in and she's like, you see tears coming down her face, which I think was like Punky's, it was just an amazing facial expression. And, that's the type of thing I want to see more from Punky. But just how short it was reminded me of 90s SNL where, they would take an existing commercial, they would make fun of it, and then they would play it on SNL, and people wouldn't be able to know, was this a real commercial? Was this an SNL commercial? Sometimes it would play 4 or 5 times throughout the season. This is exactly the type of thing I look for as far as commercial parodies are concerned. Rich, how did you feel about it?
Similar. I loved it. And this is a real testament to Chloe Fineman, because I thought the impression of Nicole Kidman was very small. It was not big. It was not broad. It was both accurate, and for some reason it was really funny. And I'm not sure how she made me laugh with such a subtle impression. It wasn't just about accuracy. There was something really fun about it. Probably because in part, I remember sitting down to see, it might have been Top Gun, and seeing this AMC thing for the first time, and at the end saying exactly what Kenan Thompson says at the end of the sketch, which is, what the beep just happened? So I love this simple escalation. Get out. We all get it. I thought it was great.
Kirstin, how did you feel about it?
As a Canadian, we did not get that commercial. So I did not know what it was about, but I can speak to it as someone who observed it. And I love Chloe Fineman's Nicole Kidman impressions. I follow her on Instagram, and so I'm familiar with them. And if you haven't seen her doing NERP, do yourself a favor and just look that up. Again, she nailed it. Just as you said, Rich, it was subtle, but super compelling. Kenan was the standout for me on that, because he did what Kenan does best, which is that, the self-aware person, the kind of representing us in the moment. He did that perfectly. And then at the end, when she levitated, I get that wasn't in the commercial, but I actually had to look that up. So it was interesting to see that one. And as a Canadian, not know what the heck it was about, because we do not have that. We don't have. We may have one AMC theater, but we don't have those commercials, at least that I've seen. I don't know if anyone in the chat is correcting me, but it was new to me.
Yeah, I'm an IPTV person, so I had seen this commercial, so I get to a lot of American commercials. But yeah, Kirstin, I'm pretty sure I have a few AMC forums or AMC theaters in Montreal. Pretty sure. You don't have them in Toronto?
I mean, I feel like I've been on my couch for 3 years, so
Got it. Yeah.
I probably need to go out to a movie theater. Heard ya. I don't know. There might be a couple. Maybe there's a ton. Maybe I don't even know. Shame on me. But we haven't seen the commercials, unless I guess you would see them pre-roll, right, from a movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've also seen them on television, I believe, as well. Sean, how did you feel about this?
You know what? I'm in the same boat as Kirstin because I haven't seen it because I steal my movies, man. But I don't know. I don't go to the movies. But yeah, man. The comedians that were with me really loved it because I guess everybody who's seen it gets the silliness of having a commercial about going to the movies when you're at the movies. So everybody who saw it was like, "Oh yeah, that's so crazy that." So it hit on that. And for me, it's Keenan with the reactions, because if you see a bunch of people saluting, you get up and at first I thought it was a black guy thing, because I'm like, yeah, black people see a bunch of white people start doing something, you do it too, just to make sure that it's not a trap or whatever. They think you're one of them. But then I like that they didn't make it a black guy thing by making Punky just it wasn't a black guy thing, it was just he was Keenan, and that seemed to hit on something else, like maybe we're not gonna do those types of things or like make it too easy. But I would have liked it either way, because me being a black man, I see a bunch of white people get up and do something, I'm gonna do it too. Y'all have a lot of events that you do where everybody knows what to do. Like when you watch The Room or Rocky Horror Picture, scares black people. If you don't know that they about to do all these rituals, it's that look that you give, the same look that Keenan was giving. So yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Hell yeah.
Good. And our friend JPJ in the chat says that the commercial also definitely did air on television in the States. So I believe that is where I had seen it. But yeah, I don't think you necessarily had to have seen it to enjoy this. So I do think that it was very good. So was a big fan of a lot of the stuff we saw in the first half of this episode. Let's go around the panel one more time and bring up anything else from the episode we just want to make sure that we touch on. So Rich, I'll start with you. Anything else from the episode you want to talk about?
Oh boy, I know what other people are going to say. I'm gonna jump to the very end for a second, just to say, if Peacock, SNL moved from Hulu to Peacock. They're keeping up their tradition of running the long good nights. There is a wonderful, simple pleasure that we only get once a year, which is to watch the good nights of the season premiere and to watch the new featured players be on that stage and start jumping up and down because they are on the cast of Saturday Night Live. It is one of the most simple pleasures in life, and it was wonderful to see those four, and a great way to end the show, and to see John Hamm there because he's a pro. Only showed up once in the cameo, didn't show up in a second sketch, stayed for the good nights, loved it. So I thought it's just a lot of other good stuff from the show, but I just wanted to call that out. It's such a nice way to end the night.
Okay, Kirstin, anything else from the show that you want to bring up?
I'm going to stay on the Bowen train. Spotted Lanternfly, his appearance on Weekend Update. Again, some really fun writing. What I love about the moments that he seems to have a lot of, and again, I think it's Celeste Yim and himself, is that really quick writing, but smart writing. So you've got, this stubborn, kind of petulant, bratty teenage trope that you've seen on reality shows, and they've put it in the form of this invasive species of bug with attitude. And so, silly, funny, seminal secretion pouch. Never thought I'd say those words together. But then also, I don't know, I'm a bug, the self-awareness there. My favorite line, though, is when he spun around and said, "Look at that underwing. It's giving rouge." Yeah, chef's kiss for that one.
I loved this because I love high energy update pieces. I think anytime that they bring out somebody and you know what, even more so as a contrast to what we just got from Michael Longfellow, who was playing it pretty straight. I think that, emphasized how the high energy boost that we got from Bowen, because they were both very good, but in their own ways. And you have to also credit Andrew for coming out as the corn in this one, or the crops in this one, and they were fighting each other. That I did enjoy. Rich, do you have any opinion on this one?
Oh, yeah. I thought that this really is about Bowen's performance ability. There were a bunch of fun lines, but I think think it needed that energy to sell. When he says, "I look gorgeous dead, bitch," I mean, I can't sell that. I mean, that's a Bowen. So I think this was for me less about the writing and more about performance. And what a great between starting with Herschel Walker, then going to Michael Longfellow, then going and closing with the Lanternfly was a great pacing of the night of the features. I definitely liked it a lot.
Sean, you like the Lanternfly?
Oh yeah, he was dope, man. He was dope. Yeah, I enjoyed that whole the sequence of it. Herschel Walker was hilarious. You want me to say the one more thing?
Sure. Yeah. Give us anything else you want to talk about.
I got to talk about K. Dot, man. I think Kendrick Lamar. Black people call him K. Dot just to sound like we were following him before he was famous.
All the white people on the panel are going to follow your lead.
Right, good. Kendrick
I'm like,
Lamar,
K. Dot, what team did he play on? What franchise are we talking about now? Come on, Sean, help me out.
You know what? And it's funny because I watched Kendrick in the promos, and I thought he was playing a thing like he didn't want to be there, which and it wasn't until the show that I was like, does he really? I don't think he wants to be here, or something. He didn't. He's big enough to not be there if he didn't want to. But part of me was like, oh, maybe he's one of those guys that you can't tell if they're in on the bit. Like Kevin Durant is like that. There was an award show where Peyton Manning was making fun of him, and I think he was supposed to look like he was offended by the joke, but he did such a good job that people really believed that he was offended. Like he looked terribly offended when the camera cut to him. And Kendrick Lamar was like that. Like, I can't tell. Was he happy to be there? The first performance, he put some effort in. I love the silhouette moving. That was really cool and thoughtful. Then the second one was like, whatever. Like, he was chilling, man. Like, but I love his music. I think he's an amazing artist. And I think he might have missed an opportunity to give people a little more of his personality. If he gives it, he probably don't care, which is kind of his charm. He's just a talented artist. Maybe he's tortured. I don't know why, but he's very successful and I think very talented. But I would love to see a little more personality from him.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest surprises of the night for me, was not getting Kendrick Lamar in anything besides the musical guest, as a musical guest. So for me, I would have expected some type of pre-tape, something with him there, but maybe logistically, schedule-wise, didn't work out, or they just didn't have anything that was strong enough to go ahead with on that. But I did enjoy his performances as well. Happy to see him there. And he did actually he was in YOLO, a digital short back in the day when he was on the first time. And then he was in another commercial, Young Tarts and Old Farts, when he was there the second time. So that was, you can go back and check that out. I think actually we posted that on our social media, as well as a flashback last Friday. For me, the one other thing that I want to bring up, I'd like to talk very briefly about this rooftop bar sketch, because I'm curious to get the panel's opinions on it. I really liked the concept here, and I sort of felt like, premiere, new season, perhaps, are we going to go back to the beginning of our discussion, could we build some characters? Mikey Day as Nick Chodecork, where he comes in and he is playing a finance bro who is, seems super confident, but when the girls show up, he is a simp. So the question is, should this have been Miles Teller playing off of Mikey Day, or should this have been someone else? Conventionally, Miles Teller is, your classic finance bro, seems like the right guy to play there. But was there perhaps an opportunity here to have another cast member play off of Mikey Day and develop a character that we could see time and time again on the show? That's where I was thinking on Saturday night about it. Rich, would love to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I actually think it's the right move not to, because clearly, and Alex Moffat from, last year would have been perfect in this role. There's a lot of people who could easily have been this, and then, and if it was two guys that are both cast members, then it would be much harder to repeat it without it being Mad Libs. The fact that now you can bring in a different 50%, keep Mikey the same, have a new host do a new energy with a new character, it gives the chance to give a little more variety than just rinse and repeat as we often did in a lot of those 90s sketches. So I think it could be interesting. I hope that they do bring it back. Mikey was so fun in this.
Yeah, I love the line where he was like,
"Ooh, cranberry. Uh-oh, UTI."
That was my favorite line in the whole thing.
I want to say before we throw it to other people, as much as I liked a lot of those awkward lines, I loved more when he was like, top shelf, when they're like, oh, top shelf is $90. He's like, oh, maybe he's from three. Like that to me was more relatable. And when he's paying with a B of A debit card, I just the bringing it back to a core of relatability for maybe those of us not like Sean, not like John, who were not great with the ladies back in the day when we were single. I love the relatability of some of that.
I will say, we were talking on Saturday about this is maybe a regional thing, like finance bros and what they're like actually. But I will say that in my time being out and about, I have seen one too many guys who have literally been these people at the second that the girls show up. So I think the finance bro thing was fine, but like the swagger and then being like, ooh, boobies, like that, I've seen that in real life, and it's real.
What's weird, and is a weird nitpick. I don't care. Generally, the thing about finance bros, from my understanding, is their confidence comes from the money that they've made being in finance. So the fact that Mikey couldn't afford the top shelf liquor was a weird twist on the very
true.
premise, which is totally fine by me. It was a great bet, but it was a weird thing to call out. Anyway,
I agree. I didn't expect that. That's exactly what it is. They just throw the money around and they think that's what earns them everything, even if they don't have a personality. That's what I was expecting also.
Sean, anything on this?
I agree with you, John. I think they missed an opportunity. I think it was funny. I don't know these guys. I don't know that character. A friend of mine who was watching with me, a comedian named Tatiana Komoguchi. She's from New York and was like, "Oh yeah, that's those guys. That's the finance guys." I was like, "Okay, if you say so." But it was still funny, and I think they missed an opportunity to put Marcelo or some new guy there, let Mikey kind of usher them into a character, and maybe it could have been Wayne's World or whatever, like the two wild and crazy guys, like somebody said in the chat. Like the some other recurring. I think it was missing the same thing that maybe the Vacation Ladies was missing, the pattern. I think people with characters, they need lines, they need things that you can hit on over and over again. Things that you could put on a T-shirt, on a coffee mug, Wayne's World, excellent, or something, where people can say it the next day. That's the fun about it, but you can't do that with a guest host every time. It doesn't have that same, like home feeling when you hear it again. Even if it's not as funny the second, third, or 10th time you hear it, it's like it feels like something familiar. And I think with they missed an opportunity.
God, I hate when Sean makes a really good point. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, we have all season to go back and forth on that. Okay, so let's do a couple other polls from the audience, and then we will wrap things up and preview our next week's show. So one of the questions I asked the audience was, we talked a lot about Michael Longfellow on Weekend Update. I would like to know which of the rookies you would like to see on Weekend Update next. So we saw him on there. Would we like to see Marcelo, MOLY, or Devin? Rich, do you have an opinion on this?
I don't know the rookies from the little I saw this week, so I have no opinion. I'd love to just see as many of them as possible. I know that's a cop-out answer.
Okay. Any of you have a strong opinion, Kirstin?
No, I'm same. I don't know enough about any of them, so bring it on. I want to get to know them, and I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah, Sean, they hired 4 stand-ups. So do you have a horse in the race that isn't Michael you want to see next?
Marcelo, baby, from the 305. Miami's in the building. Marcelo's on the next Weekend Update desk, and you can book it. I said so. Tell him what I said, Mike. Let me DM Mike. Tell him to talk more.
Go for it. Okay, so this is pretty split among the audience, but just by a little bit of a margin, Devin Walker comes in at 36%, MOLY comes in at 34%, and Marcelo comes in at 30%. So it seems to be the order is Devin, MOLY, then Marcelo. But Sean will weigh Sean's vote a little bit higher, and hopefully Marcelo will be on in week number 2. I just want to see all of them. I just think this is an opportunity. Let's get all 4 of them through in the first few episodes and get our opinions about all of their initial update appearances, since they are all stand-ups. Okay, so Let's talk MVPs. So just from a statistical perspective, it seems like Keenan and Bowen dominated the night with 6 sketches. Miles Teller was in 8 sketches, but was also in the cold open, anchored a lot of stuff. John Hamm had a great appearance as well. JAJ was in 4 sketches, did some impressions. We got to see the premiere of Michael Longfellow on Weekend Update. So every single week, we do ask our audience for their MVPs, and then we give out the results of the top 5. But I always ask our panel who they think the top 3 MVP vote getters were from this particular week. So Rich, I'll start with you.
I mean, Miles Teller, I think, has to be number 1. I mean, I didn't even see the dude reading cue cards in a sketch. I mean, he was spot on in every sketch, which was amazing. So certainly him. Clearly Bowen, I thought, was such a standout. And then I think new guy love for Michael Longfellow. I think that, made a really strong impression out of the gate, both in the cold open, in doing a very hard bitch. We didn't talk about specifically how to be funny with no lines while someone else who's not in front of you is talking, but you can't see them because they're on a different sound stage, and then coming to Weekend Update and doing a bit. Those are 3 really strong performances for me.
Kirstin, how about you? Who's your top 3 for the MVP voting for this week?
I agree. Miles Teller, delightfully surprised by his commitment to knowing the material, his enthusiasm for all of the work and all of the writing and all of the performance. As I said, I'm now a fan, and so I would love to see him back on the show. So he definitely gets my number 1 spot. Bowen obviously gets a 2nd, and I don't know if I have a 3rd. Got to tell you, those are the top 2. There you go.
Okay. Sean,
actually, I'll say the 3rd one is the stage design in Kendrick Lamar's first set. That was stunning. It was beautiful. That's my 3rd.
Okay, Sean.
What was Rich's order again? I gotta beat Rich.
I went Miles, Bowen, Michael.
Bowen, Miles, Michael. Just so I can beat Rich. Bowen is
all right.
1.
All right. Well, I could tell you that I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, one of you is right, and that person is Sean. Sean Grant takes this one. Yeah.
Bam!
Sean, killing it.
Bam!
Yeah, the majority of the votes, actually, 60% of the voting went to either Bowen or Miles, but 33% goes to Bowen, 27% goes to Miles. Mikey Longs comes in number 3 with 12% for his spot on Update. Chloe Fineman, I assume for her role in the AMC pre-tape, 6%. And then Mikey Day, who had a very strong night, or at least in terms of quantity as well, was in 5 sketches himself, comes in at number 5 for the episode MVP for S48 episode 1. So those are your MVP results. And if you want to get your voting in and be a part of the conversation, you can always do that every single Monday by voting on Twitter or in our Instagram stories, and we will share those results every Monday night after a new episode. All right, let's close the book for now on this podcast about season 48, episode 1, and let's look ahead to our expectations for the Brendan Gleeson episode, who I believe, I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, is promoting the Banshees of Inisherin, whatever it is. I tried to watch the trailer for the Banshees of Inisherin, and I apologize to all of our Irish listeners, but I could not understand a thing that was happening in that trailer. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brendan Gleeson does on the show this week. Rich, what are your expectations?
I said this in our internal chat. I thought this is an absolute host that I would have seen. A no-brainer to ask to host. The second episode of the 1996 season. It is so bizarre. If anyone from other than maybe In Brug's, if anyone watched the Comey Rule on Hulu, he did a very interesting Donald Trump. That was very compelling, and it would be fun to see him bring that Donald Trump against the JAJ Donald Trump, because their physical presences are so different. Other than that, how they book the show is such a mixture of science and art and mercurialness. Why he was booked, I don't know, but I think he comes from a stage acting background. I shouldn't even say that. I'm not sure about, but I'm very intrigued to see what he brings to the show. Could be really fun.
Yeah, I was thinking, I know that this was the show that they booked last. I was wondering if they wanted to get somebody from across the pond, perhaps like a Matt Smith from House of the Dragon. He's been very popular now, and then that didn't come together, and they ended up with Brendan Gleeson. But I do think we have to give him a chance to just see what he does on the show. Kirstin, what are your expectations?
I am very excited. I love hearing from voices of all ages. I am closer in age to him than I am to Willow. So I think if there are people that are going to Google him, there are also at times people who are going to Google Willow. So, while we have wild cards on that are younger, I am all about bringing on someone who is older, who was in Harry Potter, who was in Braveheart, who was in Bruges, who was the voice in the Smurfs movie. He's actually quite versatile. If you've looked at interviews of him, he's an incredibly composed and articulate and quite progressive thinker and speaker. So although I would not have guessed him in a million years, I am very excited, and I think we will be pleasantly surprised as someone who's just a really strong actor who's willing to have a little bit of fun. So I'm here for it. Popcorn, pops, ready.
All right, Sean, take it home.
Man, I don't know this dude. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been the guy that went last. My bad. Maybe, the only Gleason I know is Jackie Gleason, and I know he ain't on that level, baby. Jackie's the GOAT. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I think that's what SNL's about. Introducing you to people that you're not familiar with and putting them right in your heart. It happened with Miles Teller last week, so I'm excited too, man. Come in my heart, baby. It's open, Brendan. I can't wait to let you in. If you're funny.
And
Sean,
maybe I think we could get a Colin Farrell cameo next week. I think
that
that's
would be
very possible.
That'd be true. I believe a former host as well. And Sean, if you have to let us know what your comedy friends think of Brendan Gleeson after the episode next week. So looking forward to seeing if maybe you'll be in the DMs for that one. Okay. What a wonderful show that we had here for our first roundtable. Really love the discussion. Love getting to just talk as much as we can about the things we want to talk about. So I'd like to thank everyone in the chat for joining us on this Monday night. And Rich, I'll start with you. Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on? Any storytelling you're doing?
In the LA area, Story Collider, The Moth, a couple of other shows, but outside of LA, no. But I would say Rich Tack on Twitter specifically, so that when Sean makes it on SNL, I want the DM back when I tweet you during your first performance. I want the double hand prayer thank you emoji.
Yeah, that would be very fun. Kirstin, great job on your first roundtable ever on the Saturday Night Network. So happy to have you. Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on? And I believe you were on another podcast that came out today.
Yes, yeah. I'm talking all about my love for Bill Hader on SNL Hall of Fame. So big Monday night. Sean, I've just met you, but clearly I also want that DM from you. So do not forget. I check out generationwoman.ca. That's a storytelling night, intergenerational. We have our launch event in Toronto. It's an event series that we brought from New York, and it's all about women, or anyone who identifies as a woman, telling their stories from 20s to 80s something. So as you can tell, I love voices, but that's a passion project of mine, and really that's the only thing online that isn't private. So check that out.
Awesome. All right, Sean, so great to get to hear from you. I know you are touring all over the country, and I cannot wait till you're somewhere near me so I can come and see you.
Hey, yeah, man. We've kind of slowed down King Batch. First of all, when I get on the show, guys, I'm sending 4, just because I keep it really real. I'm sending Ford, Brown, thank you prayer hands, and thanks, dude, to everybody when I get on the show. Just so you know, I'm a little, I'm down to earth still. But yeah, check me out at BMC Improv. I perform with a team called Bernie Mac and Cheese Improvisers every other Monday at the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica. Somebody on that team is 10 amazing. Somebody on SNL are getting their own show very soon. So I would say come and watch them live because they're an amazing group of performers. As for me, you can follow me on Instagram. And TikTok and all that stuff, man. I hit like 50,000 on a sketch the other day, man. My friend, I'm blowing up, baby. So yeah, check me out on TikTok.
Yeah, the next Jake Novak. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can always find me at Jon Schneider 24 if you want to chat about Saturday Night Live. For everything else we have here going on, you can find us at the SNL Network right now on social platforms. We still have 2 more SNL shows happening this week talking about this episode. On Wednesday night, we will be live for the By the Number show, where we are going to talk pure analytics. I will be the first guest on the new By the Number show hosted by Mike Murray and Nicole Rovine, where we're going to talk about the screen time analytics and everything numbers from this episode. So if you're into that, check out that show on Wednesday evening. Thursday, I will be live with a couple of our patrons to answer questions from the previous week and look forward to the next. There's a lot of things I do want to talk about on Thursday that we didn't even get a chance to get into yet. Apparently, people are out there saying that some of the sketches from this week were plagiarized. I mean, that to me is a little bit of a cold take, because that's something that's happened for many, many seasons. People have different ideas, and I don't know that necessarily anything that was on this week was exactly what it was online, but there was some interesting back and forth. So I'm going to get into all of that on Thursday a little bit more, just a little bit of a tease, but we're going to talk about that because I want to talk about how that really works with Saturday Night Live. So we will talk about that on Thursday on our patron feedback show. But and then we'll be back for the hot take show on Saturday night, which will be very exciting. So we'll be live at 1:10 a.m. with a great panel. Andrew Dick and TJ Randolph will bring the fire on at 1:10 a.m. to talk about everything from Brendan Gleeson and Willow. So make sure to join us then. Okay, for Rich Tackenberg, Kirstin Turnbull, and Sean Grant, and everybody in the chat on this Monday night, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good